Hi, my name is Spencer. I'm an engineer on Oculus's developer technology team. I'm going to be walking through one of our latest Unreal Engine samples that covers locomotion and two-handed item manipulation. We have a variety of different locomotion styles. They're on the screen right now, as you can see. Point and teleport with your avatar kind of walking to the location. Stepped translation and rotation. That's when you do these like little short hops. We have grab and drag, which is it's a little unusual horizontally, but it might be useful if you're doing like a climbing game or something like that. Arm swinging, where you kind of just move as your arms swing, and then we have dual stick walking, which is kind of the default mode people start with, but it has a tendency to be a little uncomfortable. So I don't know if I'd recommend that, but it's in the sample just in case you want to try it out. We also have the interaction includes bow and arrow, a two-handed staff. It's really just an elongated cylinder, excuse me. And we also have this kind of sci-fi laser rifle type thing that you can play around with. It's modeled after the gun in the First Steps demo, if you've played that in the shooting gallery. Without further ado, I guess I'll just jump right into it. I have to take my headset off to fit the other headset on. So one second. Quick cut. That's a little Hollywood magic. I have the headset on. I'm locked in and ready to go. So we're going to go through some of the locomotion styles right now. Point and teleport. You're probably familiar with this. Use the thumbstick to pick a location that you're going to end up in. Rotating the thumbstick chooses which direction you're going to face after the teleportation. Pretty common. It's nice because it sidesteps some of the discomfort issues of translation. We also have point and teleport. Um, this one is very similar to the teleportation, except we have the avatar actually running to that position before the teleportation completes. This is nice because sometimes you don't want to give, the advantage of instantaneous movement. You still want to have the player's avatar have to move somewhere. Um, but again, it sidesteps some of these discomfort issues if you actually allow them to teleport directly. We have stepped translation and rotation. So this one is you can kind of see it on the screen. Instead of doing continuous rotation, we are rotating. I think it's set to like 15 degrees at a time per flick of the thumbstick, and then similarly, we're jumping a couple meters forward and backwards with the left stick. Um, Grab and drag. This one's a little less common. Um, you can kind of pull the world towards you. Um, Horizontally, uh, you won't see it in too many games. Vertically, also, not super common, but you could imagine some sort of scenario where you're, climbing up a cliffside or something like that, and you might want to grab and drag to move the player. We also have arm swinging. Arm swinging is kind of funny looking. The demo set up to only do it if you are holding the triggers down. So right now, I'm not holding any triggers down, but as soon as I hold the triggers and I move my arms like this as fast as I can, um, it will move my avatar around. Gonna go back to point and teleport so I can get to where I started. Uh, Close enough. Let's see. So the um, final locomotion type that we have is kind of it's the one most people start with. It's kind of like default FPS style movement. This one has a tendency to cause some discomfort if you're not used to it. So uh, not not the first thing I would recommend doing, but we have it in the sample just in case you wanted to play around with it and see how it feels and see how this sort of stuff's put together. And you might have a game that just kind of requires it. So um, it's always an option. I personally like point and teleports. I'm going to switch back to that. So those are the locomotion modes. Now I'm going to go into the interaction stuff that we have on the table. The first thing you'll see here is this kind of sci-fi rifle. I've dropped it to the ground. Okay, got it back. Um, it's in the two-handed simple because you'll see that I can manipulate it with both hands. Like as I move my forward hand, it's rotating. It also we also do some scaling, some stretching on it to kind of make it fit your current hand position. If I bring my hands really close together, usually it gets really tiny. As I stretch it out, it gets scaled out wider. So this is just similar to that laser rifle. Um, we apply the position of both hands to calculate the final rotation of the object. We'll drop that over there. And of course, the bow and arrow, which is, just a ton of fun. So play around with that. Get inspired. And that is the extent of this demo. I'm going to quit out of here now and show you how it's put together in Unreal. Okay, so we're back in Unreal, um, and I just wanted to show you where to find some of the stuff that we saw earlier in the demo. Um, the best place to look, of course, is our world outliner up here in this corner. I'll start with the locomotion, and then we can go into some of the two-handed items as well. So all the locomotion is going to be in our VR Pawn motion controller blueprint. So if I crack that guy open, you can see all of the events in our event graph. Um, I'm not going to dig through everything. I just want to show you where it is so you can pick it apart yourself. But you'll see, let's see, we do some basic setup. I think that's boilerplate VR setup stuff here. Um, the tick event is actually going through this switch to determine what mode we're in. And so this is kind of like the entry point. If we go to the teleport style event, which will be triggered, based on which item we selected in the menu, you can see how we handle each controller's version of the teleport, um, and then each controller has a slightly different way to handle the resulting rotation of the teleportation. Specifically, I think one interesting call out here is we do this kind of dead zone checking. So you can just release the thumbstick to complete the teleport. That's useful, and it's kind of the default um, the default pattern that most games have arrived at. Let's see. Jumped movement is that stepped rotation stuff that we were looking at earlier. So this whole subgraph is doing translation, and this subgraph is handling that rotation. So if you're interested in that style of locomotion, make sure to check there. Arm swinging, it's a very funny looking one. I believe we check just the kind of current velocity of each controller to determine if we should be moving or not. Um, Grab and drag is down here, and last but not least is the dual stick walking. Again, probably not the best thing to do, but you can take a look at how it's put together in that part of the blueprint. And then this final little tick, the menu selection tick is actually what puts the UI in front of you each tick as your character moves around. It tries to keep it in frame. which is why that's part of the tick. If you're curious how we actually create this locomotion window, that's through this input action, which, if you're unfamiliar, is defined actually in the project settings under input toggle locomotion menu, right? So um, toggling the menu is going to be bound to one of these buttons. When the player presses those buttons, it's going to trigger this event, and then it's off to the races. We're in our event graph, and Unreal's doing its thing. So that's how that stuff is put together. Definitely take more time to actually sit with it than I gave here. This is just an overview. I'm going to close that. I'm going to close the project settings as well. The next thing we can look at is these two-handed interaction things. So I'll start with the bow and arrow. Um, you'll see we have two major actions. One is pulling the string out to actually, launch our arrow into the scene. Um, take a look at that, and then we have another calculation that sets the string tension. This operates on the actual the string mesh on the bow. So both of those are worth looking at and playing around with. So the last thing I wanted to show you here is what happens when we actually release the bowstring. Um, so that will trigger a drop event. The bowstring implements this pickup actor interface, right? So effectively, we've dropped the string, and when that happens, we want to fire an arrow. So you'll see that from event drop, we go into handling the drop, and handling the drop is essentially just um, either releasing the bow itself, if you are dropping it with your bow hand, you'll see here the flow is, am I holding it with the bow hand? If yes, then drop this stuff. But if I was holding the bow with the string hand, then we actually want to fire an arrow out into the world. So um, the kind of setup code is here. Then we go into the fire arrow subgraph, and that's what actually is going to create these arrow objects and launch them with the velocity based on how far you were pulling the bow back. So that stuff's kind of interesting to dig into. You can even in the samples, it's fun to play around with. So you can imagine working it into something fun beyond this gray box demo. Um, I wanted to show the two-handed rifle here. Um, another surprisingly complicated interaction to deal with two-handed stuff. Um, but this graph is going to deal with doing that combined rotation of the two hands based on their positions in the world. Um, Again, not going to dig into it too much, but you know where to find it. Um, we have some pickup logic, which is, I believe, the first hand to pick up the rifle is considered the active hand, and then the secondary hand is what's going to give you that kind of stretching. All that logic is here in this subgraph, and then similar to the bow from before, we have to do custom logic on dropping it because whether or not you're holding it with your primary hand is what determines kind of the dropping behavior there. Um, Close this guy. The last thing is the two-handed cylinder, two-handed staff. If you take a look at the mesh component, you'll see it's actually just a vanilla little cylinder. It's just stretched out to look like that staff. Um, Similarly, we have custom logic for pickup and for drop. And then while you're rotating it around, this is kind of where all the guts of the logic come from. I believe the bow pays special attention to, or sorry, not the bow. The staff pays special attention to where your hands are along the staff. So if they're closer together, you'll get you can picture yourself, holding a staff. You would get a much wider rotation than if they were out on the ends. So all that logic is in here. And I believe that covers all the interesting stuff. So make sure to check out this demo. I think it's a really good starting point if if you just wanted to prototype with some stuff. Definitely, it's a good place to just kind of build off an idea. Uh, there's some interactables on the table. The stack of cubes have physics actors attached to them, and the locomotion stuff is on display. So check it out. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll be signing off. I'll see you in one of these other videos. Again, from Oculus DevTech, my name is Spencer. Have a lovely evening.